Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaykum everyone. Today the moment is somber. There is serious escalation between India and Pakistan after India's missile strike 2 nights ago, which killed 31 Pakistanis. These strikes were an aggravated response to the killings of 26 innocent people in Indian-controlled Kashmir. The facts are yet to be established, but this has become a moment of glory for politicians and military generals. Sensationalist pundits and social media personalities are already getting likes by stoking emotions rather than urging calm. I'm not going to make any political comment on the specific situation simply because I'm removed from the facts. But what I want to do today is talk about the world we live in. We live in a world where established institutions are not able to come to the help of the oppressed, where politicians are deaf to the lament of the persecuted, where the goal of sustainable development recedes into the distance, where gender equality is declining, and where oligarchs make a naked grab for resources in war-ravaged countries. I believe we are now in the midst of late-stage phallocentric politics that is literally turning our world to rubble and ashes. I set out my argument in 3 stages. First, I described what a phallocentric world looks like. Then I consider the possibility of an alternative. And finally, I set out an alternative vision. What does a phallocentric world look like? Let me read out some headlines from yesterday's Guardian to give you an idea. Pakistan PM authorizes armed forces to undertake corresponding action after India's strike kills 26. This has now been revised to 31 dead. The next headline is Desperate, Traumatized People. Gaza faces waves of looting, theft and violence. Meanwhile, the UN warns that Israel's Gaza plan a dangerous moment for civilians. The third headline is about the election of the new Pope. New Pope will face a complex moment in history, senior cardinal says before conclave to select Pope Francis's successor. The Guardian then talks about what's sitting in the Pope's in tray. The new Pope will need to take decisions on governance within the Church, including the pace of change and levels of inclusion regarding laity and women. Ah yes, the congregation and women, what do we do with them? And just to note that the top candidates are all men. To add to these depressing headlines, the New York Times op-ed this morning tells us that 290,000 children in Gaza are on the brink of death from starvation after the 2-month blockade on food and aid entering the region. This is what a phallocentric world looks like. It is a world where capitalism and patriarchy work together to create shareholder wealth through 2 mechanisms: stripping the planet of resources and stripping human beings of their dignity. This is a world where history is selectively read or carefully omitted to justify erasure, oppression, and merciless killing. This is a world where we only possess degrees of humanity, and what degree of humanity we will be allocated is decided by the patriarchs in charge. Currently, Palestinians have been allocated the smallest degree of humanity. This is a world of egregious and disgusting wealth inequality. Owners of yachts moored in Monaco for the Grand Prix weekend will pay up to 35,000 euros in rent, depending on the size of the boat. In comparison, 22% of Pakistan's population lives below the national poverty line of $10 per month, according to the World Bank's September 21 statistics. $10 per month. This is the reality of 54 million people in Pakistan. Across the border drawn up by colonialists, 28% of Indians live in poverty, says the World Bank, and that's 400 million people. And yet, failed politicians choose to engage in saber rattling rather than feed their own people. The online manosphere is full of insecure brothers shouting about a crisis of masculinity. There is no crisis of masculinity. We are in fact living through a crisis of humanity. In the phallocentric capitalist world, only a handful of men are winners. These are the smirking men we see on our screens. The majority of men, the men in our families and communities are struggling and exhausted, often laboring long hours in searing heat but unable to feed their children. Zoom out a little bit to the salaried working classes. After 50 years of deliberate wage suppression under neoliberal economics, even higher wage earners in advanced economies are buried under piles of debt, unable to set aside savings for a rainy day. Politicians in these countries have told citizens to redirect their anger towards immigrants, those who look different but often work for even less than slave wages. In the meantime, shareholder wealth continues to soar, and oligarchs make donations to political parties to undermine democracy and its safeguards. In a phallocentric world, most men are losers, and women and children are always losers. It serves no one to live in a world orientated around dominance, power, and greed. Decisions are about choices. We live in a world dominated by male politicians, male religious leaders, male businessmen, and male generals who choose phallocentric politics over caring politics, and they silence those men and women who choose compassion. The ideas of love, nurture, connection, and empathy don't feature in phallocentric thinking because these are seen as weaknesses. This thinking can simply be summed up as, my missile is bigger than your missile. Is there an alternative? Yes, there is. At the point when Israel went into full-scale war against Palestinians, I remember reading a brilliant piece by the wonderful Ramona Ali in The Guardian. In her write-up, she described a meeting jointly hosted by Muslim and Jewish women. Let me read a couple of paragraphs from Ramona's article published on 31st of October 2023, 3 weeks after the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that Israel was fighting against human animals. Ramona writes, "Last week, I was invited to a safe space, a private gathering co-hosted by a Jewish woman and a Muslim woman. We met in the precincts of Westminster Abbey in the fittingly named Jerusalem Chamber. Like many there, I have been shaken by waves of hurt and helplessness, but also, like many of the women I met, I have sought ways to resist fatalism. It takes courage and vulnerability to come into a space like this," said Julie Siddiqi, the Muslim co-organizer and a faith relations consultant. Julie, alongside Dr. Lindsay Simmonds, a Jewish academic who researches women of faith and peacebuilding, felt the need to create a third space outside religious institutions and political organizations. These forums were avoided because they tend to raise more barriers to communication and lead to more danger, according to Julie, particularly as many people fear that officially speaking out or showing sympathy for the other side will draw backlash from their own communities. The safe space created in the Abbey was instead built on love and trust. "It is during catastrophic times when relationships are tested," said Lindsay, who has known Julie for more than a decade. "But it is precisely now we need to show friendship, solidarity, and trust." Even from a place of profound pain, the women I met had the capacity to reach out and feel the hurt of others. The empathy I saw is a precondition of the kind of wise, pragmatic leadership we are all desperate for. Yet, women's voices are woefully, nearly always absent from the decision-making. One participant, Elizabeth, a veteran peace activist and faith relations expert, tells me that between 1992 and 2019, women constituted only 13% of negotiators, 6% of mediators, and 6% of signatories in peace processes around the world. Despite this, Elizabeth sees the power women have as agents for social change and conflict resolution the world over. The female politician Mo Molam, one of the key figures in securing the Good Friday Agreement that ended 30 years of conflict in Northern Ireland, was written out of history. She had to face marginalization and shushing, sit down and be quiet, because she chose to create an environment where peace talks could happen. Her contribution was acknowledged 25 years later. Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, has repeatedly noted that women are missing from the top tables where important decisions are made. She acknowledges that when women leaders have come into power, they have played by the rules set by men, But there are so few women leaders that they simply do not have the support to change the rules of the game. Speaking to The Guardian, Mohammed said, flexing muscle and testosterone often dominated at tables of power around the world. This win, win, win at all costs, I think that would change if women were at the table, she said. But there is an alternative to this, and the alternative is to create a womb-centric world. Create a womb-centric world, the vision for which is set out in the Qur'an in the most eloquent words. Chapter 4 of the Qur'an is titled The Women. In the very first verse, the Qur'an talks about creation and tells us that we are all connected to the womb. In Arabic, the word for womb is raham, the plural of which is arḥām, with the triliteral root ra, ha, mim. This word has the same root as the words that God chooses to introduce himself to the reader of the Qur'an, the Rahman, the Rahim, the compassionate, the merciful. O mankind, reverence your guardian Lord who created you from a single person, created of like nature his mate, and from them twain scattered like seeds countless men and women. Reverence Allah through whom you demand your mutual rights, and reverence the wombs that bore you, for Allah ever watches over you. Lately, I have been reflecting a lot about the mention of the womb in this verse and the command to all human beings, Ya ayyuhan nas, to revere the womb. We know that it involves both a man and a woman to create the beginnings of life, but why is it that the womb is centered in the Quranic verse? I believe that in this verse, God is setting out for us a vision of what the world should be like. Connected in humanity, diverse and nurturing, where all men, women and children have dignity. This is a world where women will hold full agency, and dignity, nurture and compassion will supersede shareholder wealth maximization. This is a command to all human beings to acknowledge the ties that bind us, both literally and metaphorically. The umbilical cord connects all of us in our humanity. The womb is where life is created in safety and dignity, where the infant is held in warmth, moisture, and nurture until it is ready to emerge into the world. The womb bestows equal nurture and nourishment, whether the baby will be female or male, ill or disabled. The womb does not discriminate. The people in charge are creating a world where war is going to be normalized. War must never be normalized. War is breakdown, failure, and death. It takes away the sanctity of human life. For me, the lives of the Hindu tourists killed in Kashmir are just as valuable as the lives of the 31 Pakistanis killed by Indian missile strikes. The Quran gives me a profound reminder: killing one soul is like killing all humankind. It is time we make ourselves clear that we no longer want to live in a world of war, hunger, and cruelty. Let's become women of faith and peace building so we can create a womb-centric world where men and women work together to nurture each other. I personally prefer the Quranic term arḥām to womb because it contains within it the meaning of the relational and the compassionate, the ties that bind us together in human kinship, an arḥām-centric world. Please have these conversations at home with your loved ones, on social media, and all places where you have influence. Please join men and women who are engaged in peace building. Please work to create third spaces that do not operate under phallocentric rules. We must change the rules of engagement and the terms of debate to prepare the groundwork, the foundation upon which we can hope to create a world where compassion, dignity, and nurture become our guiding values. Please be vocal in condemning war. As Professor Jeffrey Sachs continues to remind us, diplomacy is always an option on the table if we want to save lives. Today, I invite all peace-loving Pakistanis and Indians, men and women, to stand together and loudly say no to war. By doing so, we will be recognizing the ties that connect us. Thank you, and Assalamu alaykum.